Okay, am I here now? I'm very baffled. I don't, it was so weird. It was streaming and it did all the thing. Is it allowing? And now it's saying okay. No, no, Mats, you didn't crash the stream. You, sorry, I don't know what happened. It was so weird because I had to step away for a second and I came back and it was like your stream key is invalid. And I'm like, what do you mean? Also, Matsu, thank you for the resub. I appreciate it. Um, if somebody could pop over to the YouTube channel and type something real quick, even if it's just gibberish, so I could see if it's syncing the multi-chat, that'd be great. And while I do that, my mug has been posted in the Discord because it's super cute. I see myself on YouTube. Here. Try that. Is it working? Am I invisible? I don't exist. Hello, Faded Knight. Congrats on getting first this time around. DT got it the first time around. Everything's all fucked up. Hi, Nathan. How are you? I'm doing well. I'm a little tired. If somebody wants to click the link up, okay, let's see. I restarted. Yes, DT. Let me see. Oh, poop. It's not coming through. I'm sorry, Nathan. I didn't do it. It's been crazy. Okay, I'm gonna have to monitor the YouTube chat separately because it's not coming up on that either. I don't know what's going on. Stream Elements multi-streaming is being butthead. But at least it went live. New model? I mean, I've had it now since like March 18th. So it's not new. I just sometimes have a different outfit on. Sometimes that one. Oh, thank you. There we go. And we can hold Apple. The gods did not. Well, no, you got first the first time. So anyway, yes, welcome in. Matsu, thank you for the raid, and thank you for the resub. Holy cow, 33 months. That's wild. Today we're going to continue reading Five Little Peppers and How They Grew. But, for 6 months straight, can't get rid of you. No, I can't get rid of you. That's okay, I don't want to. I have a new book. Can you hear the taps? Hold on. It's a very large book. And it's called Atlas of Dark Destinations. Explore the world of dark tourism. It's really cool. So I bought it because I saw it. I was like, this is really large, like Natural Harvest. I don't know that book. Large as in like it's pretty much a coffee table book. But there's over 300 dark destinations inside. So it is a new redeem. One per person, 3 times a stream. You can redeem a dark destination. Tell me a page number and I will read the one that's on there. Although the first couple pages aren't really anything. I should have just started with page 12. No, not even 12. 14. But yeah, it's really cool. There are pictures in it, but there's different entries, and it talks about like, and it breaks it up between like the Americas, Antarctica, and like other places, and it has all different places, and it gives a rating for how dark it is, and there's a 5-star rating too. Natural Harvest, a cookbook, a human seed. I know what book cookbook that is now because I bought it as a joke for a friend like a decade ago. there's, let's see, each entry includes an indication of its location, what category or categories of dark tourism it represents, and 2 ratings. The first is a star rating from 1 to 5, is a general quality assessment reflecting such criteria as how accessible it is, how well appointed for visitors, etc. Second rating is the dark rating on a scale of 1 to 10. It's not intended to weigh up tragedy against tragedy, but rather to indicate how tangible the dark events that took place are to visitors today. Under this system, for example, places with physical reminders of genocide, such as authentic structures and artifacts, are given a higher ranking than places where similarly tragic events are represented by symbolic monuments. Similarly, less grim sites like Colditz or, say, socialist sculpture parks are also awarded a lower rating. No, I don't have it. I didn't buy it for myself. I gave it as a gift. I didn't even have it sent to me. I just shipped it to them, so I never actually looked inside the book. I just remember being like, that's hysterical. I'm going to buy it for them. So yes, that is a reward, a redeem. I figure it had been a long time since I did a new channel redeem, so we have that one. Let me take the lid off of my little hedgehog acorn helmet. Tea cup. Yes, 1,000 channel points. And today we are going to... 1,000 is nothing. Some of you have like 30,000, 40,000. No, it doesn't taste that good in that mug. Damn. Okay, but let's begin with 5 Little Peppers and how they grew. Goodbye, Apple. And we're down to... We're over halfway through with the book. Let's see how far we get today. Education Ahead. Ooh, a raid. We'll take a pause for a moment then. Welcome in. Hello, Crusader. Hello, Ike. Hello, Isa. How are you all doing? Wow, 4 raids today. Yeah. How was your stream? Happy streamiversary or affiliate anniversary. Isa, happy... Is it streamiversary for you? It's a whole bunch of anniversaries. I am currently sipping my tea from a hedgehog mug. The picture of the mug is in the food channel in my Discord. Unfortunately, the tea doesn't taste that great out of the mug, which makes me sad, but the mug is cute. Streamiversary for you. See ya! Wait, you have 14... You only have 14 channel points? That's it? You should have more than that, Nathan. As I was telling everybody, for those who came in, welcome. I added a new stream, a redeem, an entry from the Atlas of Dark Destinations. 1 per person, up to 3 per stream. So let's begin with 5 Little Peppers and how they grew. Education Ahead. Ooh, here we go. So last time, remember, because of their dear friend, Ben, but no, wait, not Ben. Because of Jasper, they had their first Christmas. He sent a lot of gifts and presents and everything, so they had a very happy day. Education Ahead. Let me put my glasses on, make it easier to see. There we go. After that, they couldn't thank Jasper enough. They tried to lovingly, and an elaborate letter of thanks, headed by Mrs. Pepper, was drawn up and sent with a box of the results of Polly's diligent study of Jasper's book. Polly stripped off recklessly her choicest buds and blossoms from the gay little stand of flowers in the corner that had already begun to blossom, and tucked them into every little nook in the box that could possibly hold a posy. but as for thanking him enough. "We can't do it, Mammy," said Polly, looking around on all the happy faces, and then up at Cherry, who was singing in the window, and who immediately swelled up his little throat and poured out such a merry burst of song that she had to wait for him to finish. "No, not if we tried 1,000 years." Polly was given a bird. "I'm a-goin'," said Joel, who was busy as a bee with his new tools that the tree had shaken down for him, "to make Jappy the splendidest box you ever saw, Polly. I guess that'll thank him." "Do," cried Polly. "He'd be so pleased, Joey." "And I," said Phronsie, over in the corner with her children, "I'm going to see my poor sick man sometime, Polly. I am." "Oh, dear," cried Polly, whirling around and looking at her mother in dismay. "She'll be going tomorrow. Oh, no, Phronsie, you can't. He lives miles and miles away. Oh, ever so far." "Does he live as far as the moon?" asked little Phronsie, carefully laying Seraphina down and looking up at Polly anxiously. "Oh, I don't know," said Polly, giving Cherry a piece of bread and laughing to see how cunning he looked. "Oh, no, of course not. But it's an awful long ways, Phronsie." "I don't care," said Phronsie determinedly, giving the new doll a loving little pat. "I'm going sometime, Polly, to thank my poor sick man. Yes, I am." "You'll see him next summer, Phronsie," sang Polly, skipping around the kitchen. Those are frogs. Those are tree frogs. I hope it's giving a nice little ambiance. Oh my goodness. "You'll see him next summer, Phronsie," sang Polly, skipping around the kitchen, "and Jappy's sister, Marian, the lovely lady, and all the boys. Won't that be nice?" And Polly stopped to pat the yellow head bending in motherly attentions over her array of dolls. "Yes," said Phronsie slowly. "The whole of 'em, Polly?" "Yes, indeed," said Polly gaily. "The whole of 'em, Phronsie." "Hooray!" shouted the two boys, while Phronsie only gave a long sigh and clasped her hands. "Better not be looking for summer," said Mrs. Pepper, "until you do your duty by the winter. Then you can enjoy it." And she took a fresh needleful of thread. "Mamsie's right," said Ben, smiling over at her, and he threw down his book and jumped for his cap. "Now for a good chop," he cried, and snatching a kiss from Phronsie, he rushed out of the door to his work, whistling as he went. "Warn't Mr. Henderson good, Ma?" asked Polly, watching his retreating figure, "to give Ben learning?" "Yes, he was," replied Mrs. Pepper enthusiastically. "We've got a parson, if anybody has in this world." "And Ben's learning," said Polly, swelling with pride, as she sat down by her mother and began to sew rapidly, "so that he'll be a big man right off. Oh, dear," as the thought made her needle pause a moment in its quick flying in and out. "What is it, Polly?" Mrs. Pepper looked cleanly at the troubled face and downcast eyes. "Why," began Polly, and then she finished very slowly, "I shan't know anything, and Ben'll be ashamed of me." "Yes, you will," cried Mrs. Pepper energetically. "You keep on trying, and the Lord'll send some way. Don't you go bothering your head about it now, Polly. It'll come when it's time." "Will it?" asked Polly doubtfully, taking up her needle again. "Yes, indeed," cried Mrs. Pepper briskly. "Come fly at your sewing. That's your learning now." "So it is," said Polly with a little laugh. "Now let's see which you'll get their seam done first, Mamsie." And now letters flew thick and fast from the city to the little brown house, and back again, and warming Jasper's heart, and filling the tedious months of that winter with more of jollity and fun than the lad had ever enjoyed before. And never was fun and jollity more needed than now, for Mr. King, having nothing to do, and each year finding himself less inclined to exercise any thoughtful energy for others, began to look at life something in the light of a serious bore, and accordingly made it decidedly disagreeable for all around him, particularly for Jasper, who was his constant companion. But the boy was looking forward to summer, and so held on bravely. "I do verily believe, Polly," he wrote, That Badgertown will see the gayest times it ever knew. Sister Marian wants to go, so that's all right. Now, hurrah for a good time. It's surely coming. But alas, for Jasper, as spring advanced, his father took a decided aversion to Hingham, Badgertown, and all other places that could be mentioned in that vicinity. It's a wretched climate, he asserted over and over, and the foundation of all my ill feelings this winter was laid, I'm convinced, in Hingham last summer. No use to urge the contrary, and all Jasper's pleadings were equally vain. At last, Sister Marian, who was kind-hearted to a fault, sorry to see her brother's dismay and disappointment, said one day, "Why not have one of the children come here? I should like it very much. Do invite Ben." "I don't want Ben," said Jasper gloomily. "I want Polly." He added this in much the same tone as Phronsie's when she had rushed up to him the day she was lost, declaring, "I want Polly." "Very well, then," said Sister Marian, laughing. "I'm sure I didn't mean to dictate which one. Let it be Polly, then. Yes, I should prefer Polly myself, I think, as we've enough boys now," smiling to think of her own brood of wide-awake youngsters. "If you only will, Father, I'll try to be ever so good," said Jasper, turning suddenly to his father. "Jasper needs some change," said Sister Marian kindly. "He really has grown very pale and thin." "Hey," said Mr. King sharply, looking at him over his eyeglasses. "The boy's well enough, well enough." But he twisted uneasily in his chair all the same. At last he flung down his paper, twitched his fingers through his hair 2 or 3 times, and then burst out, "Well, why don't you send for her? I'm sure I don't care. I'll write myself, and I had better do it now. Tell Thomas to be ready to take it right down. It must get into this mail." When Mr. King had made up his mind to do anything, everybody else must immediately give up their individual plans and stand out of the way for him to execute his at just that particular moment. Accordingly, Thomas was dragged from his work to the post letter, while the old gentleman occupied the time in pulling out his watch every 3rd second until the slightly out of breath Thomas reported on his return that the letter did get in. Then Mr. King settled down satisfied, and everything went on smoothly as before. But Polly didn't come. A grateful, appreciative letter, expressed in Mrs. Pepper's own stiff way, plainly showed the determination of that good woman not to accept what was such a favor to her child. In vain Mr. King stormed and fretted and begged, offering every advantage possible. Polly should have the best foundation for a musical education that the city could afford, also lessons in the schoolroom under the boy's private tutor. It was all of no avail. In vain Sister Marian sent a gentle appeal, fully showing her heart was in it. Nothing broke down Mrs. Pepper's resolve until, at last, the old gentleman wrote one day that Jasper, being in such failing health, really depended on Polly to cheer him up. That removed the last straw that made it putting oneself under an obligation, which to Mrs. Pepper's independent soul had seemed insurmountable. And now it was decided that Polly was really to go, and pretty soon all Badgertown knew that Polly Pepper was going to the big city. And there wasn't a man, woman, or child but what greatly rejoiced that a sunny time was coming to one of the chicks in the little brown house. With many warm words and some substantial gifts, kind friends helped forward the outing. Only one person doubted that this delightful chance should be grasped at once, and that one was Polly herself. "I can't," she said, and stood quite pale and still when the Hendersons advised her mother's approval, and even Grandma Bascom said, "Go." "I can't leave Mammy to do all the work." "But don't you see, Polly," said Mrs. Henderson, drawing her to her side, "that you will help your mother twice as much as you possibly could here by getting a good education? Think what your music will be. Only think, Polly." Polly drew a long breath at this and turned away. "Oh, Polly," cried Ben, though his voice choked, "if you give this up, there'll never be another chance." And the boy put his arm around her and whispered something in her ear. "I know," said Polly quietly, and then she burst out, "Oh, but I can't. 'Tisn't right." "Polly," said Mrs. Pepper, and never in all their lives had the children seen such a look in Mamsie's eyes as she met them then. "It does seem as if my heart would be broken if you didn't go." And then she burst out crying right before them all. "Oh, Mammy," cried Polly, breaking away from everybody and flinging herself into her arms. "I'll go if you think I ought to, but it's too good." "Don't cry, don't, Mammy dear." And Polly stroked the careworn face lovingly and patted the smooth hair that was still so black. "And Polly," said Mrs. Pepper, smiling through her tears, "just think what a comfort you'll be to me and us all," she added, taking in the children who were crowding around Polly as the center of attention. "Why, you'll be the making of us," she added hopefully. "I'll do something," said Polly, her brown eyes kindling. Kindling? I guess kindling. "Or I shan't be worthy of you, Mammy." "Oh, you'll do it," said Mrs. Pepper confidentially, "now that you're going." But when Polly stepped into the stage with her little hair trunk strapped on behind, containing her one brown merino that Mrs. Henderson had made over for her out of one of her own, and her two new ginghams, her courage failed again, and she astonished everybody and nearly upset a mild-faced old lady who was in the corner placidly eating doughnuts, by springing out and rushing up through the little brown gate, past all of the family up to see her off. She flew over the old flat door stone and into the bedroom, where she flung herself down between the old bed and Phronsie's crib in a sudden torrent of tears. "I can't go," she sobbed. "I can't." "Why, Polly," cried Mrs. Pepper, hurrying in, followed by Joel and the rest of the troops at his heels. "What are you thinking of?" "Think of by and by, Polly," put in Ben, patting her on the back with an unsteady hand, while Joel varied the proceedings by running back and forth, screaming at the top of his lungs, "The stage going! Your trunk'll be taken!" "Dear me!" exclaimed Mrs. Pepper. "Do stop it, somebody. There, Polly, come now. Do as your mother says." "I'll try again," said poor Polly, choking back her sobs and getting on her feet. Then Polly's tears were wiped away, her hat straightened, after which she was kissed all around again by the whole family, Phronsie waiting for the last two, and then was helped again into the stage, the bags and parcels and a box for Jappy, which, as it wouldn't go in the trunk Joel had insisted Polly should carry in her hand, were again piled around her, and Mr. Tisbett mounted to a seat and with a crack of the whip bore her safely off this time. The doughnut lady, viewing poor Polly with extreme sympathy, immediately forced upon her acceptance 3 of the largest and sugariest. "'Twill do you good," she said, falling to, herself, on another with good zeal. "I always eat 'em, and then there ain't any room for homesickness." And away and away and away they rumbled and jumbled to the cars. Here Mr. Tisbett put Polly and her numerous bundles under the care of the conductor, with manifold charges and explicit directions to see her safely into Mr. King's own hands. He left her sitting straight up among her parcels, her sturdy little figure drawn up to its full height, and the clear brown eyes regaining a little of their dancing light, for although a dreadful feeling tugged at her heart as she thought of the little brown house she was fast flying away from, there was something else our Polly had begun to realize that now she was going to help Mother. "Hello, welcome to class, Blazem. Well, thank you for the follow." And now they neared the big city, and everybody began to bustle around and get ready to jump out. And the minute the train stopped, the crowd poured out from the cars, making way for the crowd pouring in, and for this was a through train. "All aboard," sang the conductor. "Oh, my senses," springing to Polly, "I forgot you. Here." But as quick as a flash he pushed her aside, and a bright, boyish figure dashed up. "Oh, Polly," he said in such a ringing tone, and in another second Polly and her bag and the bundle of cakes and apples that Grandma Bascom had put up for her and Joel's box were one and all bundled out upon the platform, and the train whizzed on, and there Mr. King was fuming up and down, berating the departing conductor and speaking his mind in regard to all the railroad officials he could think of. He pulled himself up long enough to give Polly a hearty welcome, and then away again he flew in righteous indignation, while Jasper rushed off into the baggage room with Polly's check. However, every now and then, turning to look down into the little rosy face beside him, the old gentleman would burst forth, "Bless me, child, I'm glad you're here, Polly. How could the fellow forget when—" Oh, well, you know, said Polly, with a happy little wriggle under her brown coat. I'm here now. So you are, laughed the old gentleman suddenly. Where can Jasper be so long? They're all in the carriage, answered the boy, skipping back. Now, father, now, Polly. He was fairly bubbling over with joy, and Mr. King forgot his dudgeon and joined in with the general glee, which soon became so great that travelers gave many a glance at the merry trio, who bundled away to Thomas and the waiting Greys. You're sure you've got the right check? Asked Mr. King nervously, getting into a handsome coach lined with dark green satin and settling down among its ample cushions with a sigh of relief. Oh, yes, Jasper laughed. Polly didn't have anyone else's check, I guess. Over through the heart of the city, down narrow, noisy business streets, out into wide avenues with handsome, stately mansions on either side, they flew along. Oh, said Polly, and then she stopped and blushed very hard. What is it, my dear? Asked Mr. King kindly. Polly couldn't speak at first, but when Jasper stopped his merry chat and begged to know what it was, she turned on him and burst out, You live here? Why, yes, laughed the boy. Why not? Oh, said Polly again, her cheeks as red as two roses. It's so lovely. And then the carriage turned in at a brown stone gateway, and winding up among some fine old trees, stopped before a large, stately residence that in Polly's eyes seemed like one of the castles of Ben's famous stories. And then Mr. King got out and gallantly escorted Polly out and up the steps, while Jasper followed with Polly's bag, which he couldn't be persuaded to resign to Thomas. A stiff waiter held the door open, and then the rest was only a pleasant, confused jumble of kind, welcoming words, smiling faces with a background of high, spacious walls, bright pictures and soft, elegant hangings, everything and all inextricably mixed, till Polly herself seemed floating away, 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 fast to the fairyland of her dreams. Now Mr. King was handing her around like a precious parcel from one to the other. Now Jasper was bobbing in and out everywhere, introducing her on all sides. And then Prince was jumping up and trying to lick her face every minute. But best of all was when a lovely face looked down into hers, and Jasper's sister bent to kiss her. That was an entire paragraph. Hello, Turtle King. Welcome to class. Thank you for the follow. That sentence started with a stiff waiter held the door open. That was a long one. I am very glad to have you here, little Polly. The words were simple, but Polly, lifting up her clear brown eyes, looked straight into the heart of the speaker, and from that moment never ceased to love her. It was a good inspiration, thought Mrs. Whitney to herself. This little girl is going to be a comfort, I know. And then she set herself to conduct successfully her 3 boys into friendliness and good fellowship with Polly, for each of them was following his own sweet will in the capacity of host, and besides staring at her with all his might, was determined to do the whole of the entertaining, a state of things which might become unpleasant. However, Polly stood it like a little veteran. This girl must be very tired, said Mrs. Whitney, at last, with a bright smile. Besides, I am going to have her to myself now. Oh, no, no, cried little Dick in alarm. Why, she's just come. We want to see her. For shame, Dick, said Percy, the eldest, a boy of 10 years, who took every opportunity to reprove Dick in public. She's come a great ways, so she ought to rest, you know. You wanted her to come out to the greenhouse yourself. You know you did, put in Van next to Percy, who never would have be reproved or patronized. Only she wouldn't go. You'll come to dinner, said Percy politely, ignoring Van. Then you won't be tired, perhaps. Oh, I'm not very tired now, said Polly brightly, with a merry little laugh. Only I've never been in the cars before, and— Never been in the cars before, exclaimed Van, crowding up, while Percy made a big round O with his mouth, and little Dick's eyes stretched to their widest extent. No, said Polly simply, never in all my life. Come, dear, said Sister Marian, rising quickly and taking Polly's hand, while Jasper, showing unmistakable symptoms of pitching into all the three boys, followed with the bag. Up the broad oak staircase they went, Polly holding by Mrs. Whitney's soft hand, as if for dear life, and Jasper tripping up 2 steps at a time in front of them. They turned after reaching the top, down a hall soft to the foot and brightly lighted. Now, Polly, said Sister Miriam, I'm going to have you here, right next to my dressing room. This is your nest, little bird, and I hope you'll be very happy in it. And here Mrs. Whitney turned up the gas and then, just because she couldn't help it, gathered Polly up in her arms without another word. Jasper set down the bag on a chair and came and stood by his sister's side, looking down at her as she stroked the brown, wavy hair on her bosom. It's so nice to have Polly here, sister, he said, and he put his hand on Mrs. Whitney's neck, and then with the other hand took hold of both of Polly's chubby ones, who looked up and smiled, and in that smile the little brown house seemed to hop right out and bring back in a flash all the nice times those 8 happy weeks had brought him. Oh, 'twas so perfectly splendid, Sister Marian, he cried, flinging himself down on the floor by her chair. You don't know what good times we had, does she, Polly? And then he launched out into a perfect shower of, don't you remember this? Or, oh, Polly, you surely haven't forgotten that. Mrs. Whitney good-naturedly entering into it and enjoying it all with them, until, warned by the lateness of the hour, she laughingly reminded Jasper of dinner and dismissed him to prepare for it. When the 3 boys saw Polly coming in again, they welcomed her with a cordial shout, for one and all, after careful measurement of her, had succumbed entirely to Polly, and each was unwilling that the others should get ahead of him in her regard. This is your seat, Polly, said Sister Marian, touching the chair next to her own. Thereupon a small fight ensued between the little Whitneys, while Jasper looked decidedly discomfited. Let Polly sit next to me, said Van, as if a seat next to him was of all things most to be desired. Oh, no, I want her, said little Dick. Shut, Dick, you're too young, put in Percy. You'd spill the bread and butter all over her. I wouldn't either, said little Dick, indignantly, beginning to crawl into his seat. I don't spill bread and butter, now, Percy, you know. See here, said Jasper decidedly. She's coming up here by my father and me, that is, Sister Marian, he finished more politely, if you're willing. All this while Polly had stood quietly watching the group, the big, handsome table, the bright lights, and the well-trained servants with a curious feeling at her heart. What were the little brown house people doing? Polly shall decide, said Sister Marian, laughing. Now, where will you sit, dear? She added, looking down on the little quiet figure beside her. Oh, by Jappy, please, said Polly, quickly, as if there could be no doubt. And kind Mr. King, she added, smiling at him. That's right, my dear, cried the old gentleman, pleased beyond measure at her honest choice. And he pulled out her chair and waited upon her into it so handsomely that Polly was happy at once, while Jasper, with a proud toss of his dark wavy hair, marched up delightedly and took the chair on her other side. And now, in 2 or 3 minutes, it seemed as if Polly had always been there. It was the most natural thing in the world that Sister Marian should smile down the table at the bright-faced narrator, who answered all their numerous questions, and entertained them all with accounts of Ben's skill, of Phronsie's cunning ways, of the boys who made fun for all, and above everything else of the dear mother whom they all longed to help, and of all the sayings and doings in the little brown house. No wonder that the little boys forgot to eat, and for once never thought of the attractions of the table. And when, as they left the table at last, little Dick rushed impulsively up to Polly, and flinging himself into her arms, declared, I love you, and you're my sister, nothing more was needed to make Polly feel at home. Yes, said Mrs. Whitney, and nodded to herself in the saying, it was a good thing and a comfort, I believe, has come to this house this day. Poor Polly. She leaves her house, and now she's got like 4 brothers, suddenly, in this new place. How's everybody doing today? I hope y'all are doing well. go to that. I swapped over. Next chapter, Brave Work and the Reward. Let's see, what do I have? I don't think I'll be able to finish the book. No, I won't be able to finish the book today, but I'll be able to finish it next week for sure. And on the very first morrow came Polly's music teacher. The big drawing room with shaded light and draped furniture, with its thick, soft carpet, on which no footfall could be heard, with all its beauty and loveliness on every side, was nothing to Polly's eyes, only the room that contained the piano. That was all she saw. And when the teacher came, he was simply the fairy, an ugly little one, it is true, but still the most powerful being, who was to unlock its mysteries and conduct her into fairyland itself. He was a homely little Frenchman with a long curved nose and an enormous black mustache, magnificently waxed, who bowed elaborately and called her Mademoiselle Pepper, who had music in his soul, and Polly couldn't reverence him too much. And now the big piano gave out new sounds that told of a strong purpose and steady patience. Every note was struck for Mother and the home-brewed. Monsieur Tortelotte, after watching her keenly out of his little black eyes, would nod to himself like a mandarin, and the nod would be followed by showers of extra politeness as his appreciation of her patient energy and attention. Every chance she could get, Polly would steal away into the drawing-room from Jappy and the three boys and all the attractions they could offer, and laboriously work away over and over at the tedious scales and exercises that were to be stepping-stones to so much that was glorious beyond. Never had she sat still for so long a time in her active little life, and now, with her arms at just such an angle, with the stiff, chubby fingers kept under training and restraint, well, Polly realized, years after, that only her love of the little brown house could ever have kept her from flying up and spinning round in perfect despair. "She likes it," said Percy in absolute astonishment one day, when Polly had refused to go out driving with all the other children in the park, and had gone resolutely, instead, into the drawing-room and shut the door. "She likes those hateful old exercises, and she don't like anything else." No, she doesn't. She's only doing it because of her family. "Much you know about it," said Jappy. "She's perfectly aching to go, now, Percy Whitney." "Well, why don't she, then?" said Percy, opening his eyes to their widest extent. "'Cause," said Jasper, stopping on his way to the door to look him full in the face, "she's commenced to learn to play, and there won't anything stop her." "I'm going to try," said Percy gleefully. "I know lots of ways I can do to try, anyway." "See here now," said Jasper, turning back. "You let her alone. Do you hear?" he added, and there must have been something in his eye to command attention, for Percy instantly signified his intention not to tease this young music student in the least. "Come on, then, old fellow," said Jasper, as Jasper swung his cap on his head. "Thomas will be like 40 bears if we keep him waiting much longer." And Polly kept at it steadily, day after day, getting through with the lessons in the schoolroom as quickly as possible to rush to her music, until presently the little Frenchman waxed enthusiastic to that degree that, as day after day progressed and swelled into weeks, and each lesson came to an end, he would skip away on the tips of his toes, his nose in the air, and the waxed ends of his mustache fairly trembling with delight. "Ah, such patience as Mademoiselle Pepper has! I know no other such little Americaine." "I think," said Jasper, one evening after dinner, when all the children were assembled as usual in their favorite place on the big rug in front of the fire in the library, Prince in the middle of the group, his head on his paws, watching everything in infinite satisfaction, "that Polly's getting on in music as I never saw anyone do, and that's a fact." "I mean to begin," said Van ambitiously, sitting up straight and staring at the glowing coals. "I guess I will tomorrow," which announcement was received with a perfect shout, Van's taste being anything rather than of a musical nature. "If you do," said Jappy, when the merriment had a little subsided, "I shall go out of the house at every lesson. There won't anyone stay in it, Van." "I can bang all I want to, then," said Van, now no ways disturbed by the reflection, and pulling one of Prince's long ears. "You think you're so big, Jappy, just because you're 13. "He's only 3 ahead of me," said Van. Of me, Van," bristled Percy, who never could forgive Jappy for being his uncle, much less the still greater sin of having been born 3 years earlier than himself. "Hello, Josh. Welcome in. How are you today?" We are continuing on with my brain is dying, with five little peppers and how they grew. Yay, that's good. Enjoy the story. I also have new redeems, or a new redeem anyway, in the channel redeems section. The frogs outside are so loud that they're interrupting my concentration when I'm not reading. They're like, okay. Yeah, hopefully they're not too loud, but they're definitely... The funny thing is, they're not even like against my window. They're actually pretty far back into the woods, which borders my property. Hello. Some of them might be sitting on the pool. Oh, good, they are soothing. Yay. Perfect. Perfect background noise then. I could even go, wait. I could do this and make the backdrop darker so that people's screens don't glow so much and it's soothing. Oh, he's only 3 ahead of him. Okay. 3's just as bad as 4, said Van. "Let's tell stories," began Polly, who never could remember such goings-on in the little brown house. "We must each tell one," she added with the greatest enthusiasm, "and see which will be the biggest and the best." "Oh, no," said Van, who perfectly reveled in Polly's stories, and who now forgot his trials in the prospect of one. "You tell, Polly, you tell alone." "Yes, do, Polly," said Jasper. "We'd rather." So Polly launched out into one of her gayest and finest, and soon they were in such a peal of laughter, and had reached such heights of enjoyment, that Mr. King popped his head in at the door, and then came in, and took a seat in a big rocking chair in the corner to hear the fun go on. "Oh dear," said Van, leaning back with a long sigh, and wiping his flushed face, as Polly wound up with a triumphant flourish. "How ever do you think of such things, Polly Pepper?" "That isn't anything," said Jappy, bringing his handsome face out into the strong light. "Why, it's just nothing to what she has told time and time again in the little brown house in Badgertown." And then he caught sight of Polly's face, which turned a little pale in the firelight as he spoke, and the brown eyes had such a pathetic droop in them that it went to the boy's very heart. Was Polly homesick? And so soon? Next chapter, Polly is comforted. Yes, it must be confessed, Polly was homesick. All of her imaginations of her mother's hard work, increased by her absence, loomed up before her, till she was almost ready to fly home without a minute's warning. At night, when no one knew it, the tears would come racing over the poor, forlorn little face. It would not be squeezed back. It got to be noticed finally, and one and all redoubled their exertions to make everything twice as pleasant as ever. Has she not written home once? The only place, except in front of the grand piano, where Polly approached a state of comparative happiness, was the greenhouse. Here she would stay, comforted and soothed among the lovely plants and rich exotics, rejoicing the heart of old Turner, the gardener, who since Polly's first rapturous entrance had taken her into his good graces for all time. Every chance she could steal after practice hours were over, and after the... Yes, I hear you, Asta. And after the clamorous demands of the boys upon her time were fully satisfied, was seized to fly on the wings of the wind up to the flowers. But even with the music and flowers and the dancing light in the eyes went down a little, and Polly, growing more silent... Thank you for the hi. Welcome in, Waste. Thank you for the hydrate, Tibbs, and the stand up and stretch. I will do so right now. Actually, I'm going to run. I'll be right back. Give me a moment. I need to grab something. Thank you, Tibbs, for that stand up and stretch, because I realized I left something on upstairs that I really needed to turn off. That reminded me. Mostly live from New York. Yay! Welcome in. How is New York weather? Hopefully it's good. Let me see if I can curl up on my seat a little more. Tad rainy? Yeah, it's raining out here too. It actually took me... Normally getting home from work at this other location I've been at, which today was the last day, would take me, if there's no traffic, 30 minutes. If there is traffic, 40 to 45. No, today it took an hour and a half because they were doing construction on the highway, and they have what's usually 5 lanes down to 2. And one of the ways was completely off, so I had to go the long route around what I normally do. It was infuriating. But I had an audiobook, so I just kind of vibed. But I don't have to do that again. Unfortunately, I do have to go back to my home place. Okay. Ellie's comforted. Yes, here we go. Every chance she could steal after practice hours were over, and after the clamorous demands of the boys upon her time were fully satisfied, was seized to fly on the wings of the wind to the flowers. But even with the music and flowers, the dancing light in the eyes went down a little, and Polly, growing more silent and pale, moved around with a little droop to the small figure that had only been wont to fly through the wide halls and spacious rooms with gay and springing step. It's been sunny, 2 days, rain for 5, repeat. Here, it's been like... My app will say it's supposed to rain, and the next day, And then it becomes that day, and then it's like, no, actually the day after this. And then the day after this, it's been obnoxious. So today is the first day it's actually rained. Polly don't like us, at last said Van, one day in despair. Then, dear, said Mrs. Whitney, you must be kinder to her than ever. Think what it would be for one of you to be away from home, even among friends. I'd like it first rate to be away from Percy, said Van reflectively. I want to come back in 3, no, 6 weeks. My son, said his mamma, just stop and think how badly you would feel if you really couldn't see Percy. Well, said Van, and he showed signs of relenting a little at that. But Percy is perfectly awful, Mamma. You don't know. And he feels so smart, too, he said vindictively. Well, said Mrs. Whitney softly, let's think what we can do for Polly. It makes me feel very badly to see her sad little face. I don't know, said Van, running over in his mind all the possible ways he could think of for entertaining anybody. Unless she'd like my new book of travels, or my velocipede, he added. I'm afraid those wouldn't quite answer the purpose, said his mamma, smiling. Especially the last, yet we must think of something. But just here Mr. King thought it about time to take matters into his hands. So with a great many chucklings and shruggings when no one was by, he had departed after breakfast one day, simply saying he shouldn't be back to lunch. Polly sat in the drawing-room near the edge of the twilight, practicing away bravely. Somehow, of all the days when she was home, when the home feeling was the strongest, this day it seemed as if she couldn't bear it no longer. If she could only see Phronsie for just one moment. I shall have to give up, she moaned. I can't bear it. And over went her head on the music rack. You forgot to do that? Well, thank you. I think you did it the first time, but the second time, remember, I had to restart. Thank you. I've been having a weird, hard time sneezing lately. Like, I gotta sneeze, and I'm like, oh, it's a powerful one, and then it fizzles out, and then it hurts even more because it's just there, and I can't get it out, and nothing, the usual tricks aren't working. It's so bizarre. I don't like it. Where is she? Said a voice over in front of the piano in the gathering dusk. Unmistakably Mr. King's. Oh, she's always at the piano, said Van. She must be there now, somewhere. And then somebody laughed. Then came in the loudest of whispers from little Dick. Oh, Jappy, what'll she say? Hush, said one of the other boys. Do be still, Dick. Polly sat up very straight and whisked off the tears quickly. Up came Mr. King with an enormous bundle in his arms, and he marched up to the piano, puffing with his exertions. Here, Polly. This is hilarious. Hold on. Here, Polly, hold out your arms. He had only strength to gasp, and then he broke out into a loud burst of merriment in which all the troop joined until the big room echoed with the sound. At this, the bundle opened suddenly, and out popped Phronsie. Here I am. I'm here, Polly. But Polly couldn't speak, and if Jasper hadn't caught her just in time, she would have tumbled over backward from the stool, Phronsie and all. Aren't you glad I've come, Polly? Asked Phronsie, with her little face close to Polly's own. That brought Polly too. Oh, Phronsie, she cried, and strained her to her heart, while the boys crowded around and plied her with sudden questions. Now you'll stay, cried Van. Say, Polly, won't you? Weren't you awfully surprised? Cried Percy. Say, Polly, awfully? Is her name Phronsie? Put in Dick, unwilling to be left out and not thinking of anything else to ask. Boys, whispered their mother warningly, she can't answer you. Just look at her face. And to be sure, our Polly's face was a study to behold. All its old sunniness was as nothing to the joy that now transfigured it. Oh, she cried, coming out of her rapture a little, and springing over to Mr. King with Phronsie still in her arms. Oh, you are the dearest and best Mr. King I ever saw. But how did you make Mammy let her come? Isn't he splendid? Cried Jasper in intense pride, swelling up. Father knew how to do it. But Polly's arms were around the old gentleman's neck, so she couldn't hear. There, he said soothingly, patting her brown, fuzzy head. Something was going down the old gentleman's neck that wet his collar, and made him whisper very tenderly in her ear, Don't give way now, Polly. Phronsie'll see you. I know, gasped Polly, controlling her sobs. I won't, only I can't, thank you. Phronsie, said Jasper quickly, what do you suppose Prince said the other day? What? Asked Phronsie in intense interest, slipping down out of Polly's arms and crowding up close to Jasper's side. What did he, Jasper? Oh, how funny, laughed Van, while little Dick burst out Jasper! Be still, said Jappy warningly, while Phronsie stood surveying them all with grave eyes. Well, I asked him, do you want to see Phronsie Pepper, Prince? And do you know, he just stood right up on his hind legs, Phronsie, and he said, Bark, yes, bark, bark. Did he really, Jasper? Cried Phronsie, delighted beyond measure and clasping her hands in rapture. All alone by himself? Hello, Guardian, welcome in. That's okay if you're late. Yes, all alone by himself, asserted Jasper vehemently, and winking furiously to the others to stop their laughing. He did now, truly, Phronsie. Then mustn't I go and see him now, Jasper? Yes, pretty soon now? So you must, cried Jasper, enchanted at his success and amusing, and I'll go with you. Oh, no, cried Phronsie, shaking her yellow head. Oh, no, Jasper, I must go by my very own self. There, Jap, you've caught it, laughed Percy, while the others screamed at the sight of Jasper's face. Oh, Phronsie, cried Polly, turning around at the last words. How could you? Don't mind it, Polly, whispered Jasper. 'Twasn't her fault. Phronsie, said Mrs. Whitney smilingly, stooping over the child, would you like to see see a little kitty I have for you? But the chubby face didn't look up brightly as usual, and the next moment, without a bit of warning, Phronsie sprang past them all, even Polly, and flung herself into Mr. King's arms in a perfect torrent of sobs. Oh, let's go back, was all they heard. Dear me, exclaimed the old gentleman in the utmost amazement. And such a time as I've had to get her here, too, he added, staring around on the astonished group, none of whom had a word to say. He was gone for an afternoon. Is that how close they are? But Polly stood like a statue. All Jasper's frantic efforts at comfort utterly failed. To think that Phronsie had left her for anyone, even good Mr. King. The room seemed to buzz and everything to turn upside down, and just then she heard another cry. Oh, I want Polly, I do. With a bound, Polly was at Mr. King's side, with her face on his coat, close up to the little tear-stained one. The fat little arms unclasped their hold and transferred themselves willingly to Polly's neck, and Phronsie hugged up comfortingly to Polly's heart, who poured into her ear all the loving words she had longed to say. Just then there was a great rush and a scuffling noise, and something rushed up to Phronsie. Oh! And then the next minute she had her arms around Prince's neck, too, who was jumping all over her and trying as hard as he could to express his overwhelming delight. She's the cunningest little thing I ever saw, said Mrs. Whitney enthusiastically afterward, aside to Mr. King. Such lovely yellow hair and such exquisite brown eyes. The combination is very striking. How did her mother ever let her go? She asked impulsively. I didn't believe you could persuade her, Father. I didn't have any fears if I worked it rightly, said the old gentleman complacently. I wasn't coming without her, Marian, if it could possibly be managed. The truth is that Phronsie had been pining for Polly to such an extent that there was no other way but for her to have Polly, and her mother was just on the point, although it almost killed her, of sending for Polly, as if she would have let her go, as if we would have let her go. He cried in high dudgeon, just as if he owned the whole of the Peppers and could dispose of them all to suit his fancy. So you see, I was just in time, in the very nick of time, in fact. So her mother was willing? Asked his daughter curiously. Oh, she couldn't help it, cried Mr. King, beginning to walk up and down the floor and beaming as he recalled his successful strategy. There wasn't the smallest use in thinking of anything else. I told her 'twould just stop Polly from ever being a musician if she broke off now. And so 'twould, you know yourself, Marian, for we should never get the child here again if we let her go now. And I talked, well, I had to talk some, but well, the upshot is I did get her, and I did bring her, and here she is. And the old gentleman was so delighted with his success that he had to burst out into a series of short, happy bits of laughter that occupied quite a space of time. At last he came out of them and wiped his face vigorously. And to think how fond the little girl is of you, father, said Mrs. Whitney, who hadn't yet gotten over her extreme surprise at the old gentleman's complete subjection to the little Peppers. He, whom all children had by instinct always approached so carefully, and whom every one found it necessary to conciliate. Well, she's a nice child, he said, a very nice child, and, straightening himself up to his fullest height, and looking so very handsome that his daughter could not conceal her admiration, I shall always take care of Phronsie Pepper, Marian. So I hope, said Mrs. Whitney, and father, I do believe they'll repay you, for I do think there's good blood there. These children have a look about them that shows them worthy to be trusted. So they have, assented Mr. King, and then the conversation dropped. Next chapter is titled Phronsie. Phronsie was toiling up and down the long oaks. Ooh, wrong pipe. Oh, hello, Guardian. You're over on. Oh, I see you're over on YouTube as well. That popped up slower. I'm not sure why the multi-streaming chat is not working. It's being very odd, and I'm not quite sure why, but it is what it is. Someday I'll get it fixed, or someday Stream Elements will work the way it's supposed to. Phronsie was toiling up and down the long oak staircase the next morning, slowly going from one step to the other, drawing each little fat foot into place laboriously, but with a pleased expression on her face that only gave some small idea of the rapture within. Up and down she had been going for a long time, perfectly fascinated, seeming to care for nothing else in the world but to work her way up to the top of the long flight, only to turn and come back down again. She had been going on for some time, till at last Polly, who was afraid she would tire herself all out, sat down at the foot and begged and implored the little girl, who had nearly reached the top, to stop and rest. You'll be tired to death, Phronsie, she said, looking up at the small figure on its toilsome journey. Why, you must have gone up 1,000,000 times. Do sit down, pet. We're all going out riding, Phronsie, this afternoon, and you can't go if you're all tired out. Thank you for the lurk. I appreciate it. I will eventually get the lurk button working again. Wait, I think it... Oh, yeah, it does work. That one works. I won't be tired, Polly, said Phronsie, turning around and looking at her. Do let me go just once more. Well, said Polly, who never could refuse her anything, just once, Phronsie, and then you must stop. So Phronsie kept on her way, rejoicing, while Polly still sat on the lowest stair and drummed impatiently on the stair above her, waiting for her to get through. Jappy came through the hall and found them thus. "Hello, Polly," he said, stopping suddenly. "What's the matter?" "Oh, Phronsie's been going so," said Polly, looking up at the little figure above them, which had nearly reached the top in delight, "that I can't stop her. She has really, Jappy, almost all the morning. You can't think how crazy she is over it. She looks so cute in the little drawing." "Is that so?" said Jasper with a laugh. Hello, Phronsie, isn't it nice? And he tossed a kiss to the little girl and then sat down by Polly. Oh, said Phronsie, turning to come down. It's the beautifulest place I ever saw, Jasper. The very beautifulest. I wish she could have her picture painted. I wish she could have her picture painted, whispered Jasper enthusiastically. Look at her now, Polly, quick. Yes, said Polly. Isn't she sweet? Sweet, said Jasper. I should think she was. The sunlight streamed through an oriel window. The sunlight through an oriel window fell on the childish face and figure, glinting the yellow hair and lighting up the radiant face that yet had a tender, loving glance for the two who waited for her below. One little foot was poised just in the act of stepping down to the next lower stair. The fat hand grasped the polished railing, expressive of just enough caution to make it truly childish. In after years, Jasper never thought of Phronsie without bringing up this picture on that April morning, when Polly and he sat at the foot of the stairs and looked up and saw it. Where's Jap? Called one of the boys, and then there was a clatter out into the hall. What are you doing? And Van came to a full stop of amazement and stared at them. Resting, said Jappy concisely. What do you want, Van? I want you, said Van. We can't do anything without you, Jappy. You know that. Very well, said Jasper, getting up. Come on, Polly, we must go. And Phronsie, said Van anxiously, looking up to Phronsie, who had nearly reached them by this time, we want her, too. Of course, said Polly, running up and meeting her to give her a hug. I don't go unless she does. Where are we going, Polly? Asked Phronsie, looking back longingly to her beloved stairs as she was borne off. To the greenhouse, chick, said Jasper, to help Turner, and it'll be good fun, won't it, Polly? What is a greenhouse? Asked the child wonderingly. All green, Jasper? Oh, dear me, said Van, doubling up. Do you suppose she thinks it's painted green? It's green inside, Phronsie dear, said Jasper kindly, and that's the best of all. When Phronsie was really let loose in the greenhouse, she thought it decidedly best of all, and she went into nearly as much of a rapture as Polly did on her first visit to it. In a few moments she was cooing and jumping among the plants, while old Turner, staid and particular as he was, laughed to see her go. She's your sister, Miss Mary, ain't she? At last he asked, as Phronsie bent lovingly over a little pot of heath and just touched one little leaf carefully with her finger. Yes, said Polly, but she don't look like me. She is like you, said Turner respectfully, if she don't look like you, and the flowers know it too, he added, and they'll love to see her coming, just as they do you. For Polly had won the old gardener's heart completely by her passionate love for flowers, and nearly every morning a little nosegay, fresh and beautiful, came to the house for Miss Mary. And now nobody liked to think of the time or to look back to it when Phronsie hadn't been in the house. When the little feet went pattering through halls and over stairs, it seemed to bring sunshine and happiness into everyone's heart, just to hear the sounds. Polly and the boys in the schoolroom would look up from their books and nod away brightly to each other, and then fall to faster than ever over their lessons, to get through the quicker to be with her again. One thing Phronsie always insisted on, and kept to it pertinaciously, and that was to go into the drawing room with Polly when she went to practice, and there, with one of her numerous family of dolls, to sit down quietly in some corner and wait till she got through. Day after day she did it, until Polly, who was worried to think how tedious it must be for her, would look around and say, "Oh, child, do run out and play." "I want to stay," Phronsie would beg in an injured tone. "Please let me, Polly." So Polly would jump and give her a kiss, and then, delighted to know that she was there, would go at her practicing with twice the vigor and enthusiasm. But Phronsie's chief occupation, at least when she wasn't with Polly, was the entertainment and amusement of Mr. King, and never was she very long absent from his side, which so pleased the old gentleman that he could scarcely contain himself, as with a gravity befitting the importance of her office, she would follow him around in a happy, contented way that took with him immensely. And nowadays no one ever saw the old gentleman going out of a morning when Jasper was busy with his lessons, without Phronsie by his side, and many people turned to see the portly figure with the handsome head bent to catch the prattle of a little sunny-haired child who trotted along clasping his hand confidingly, and nearly all of them stopped to gaze the second time before they could convince themselves that it was really that queer, stiff old Mr. King of whom they had heard so much. And now the accumulation of dolls in the house became something alarming, for Mr. King, observing Phronsie's devotion to her family, thought there couldn't possibly be too many of them, so he scarcely ever went out without bringing home one at least to add to them, until Phronsie had such a remarkable collection as would have driven almost any other child nearly crazy with delight. She, however, regarded them something in the light of a grave responsibility, to be taken care of tenderly, to be watched over carefully as to just the right kind of bringing up, to have small morals and manners taught in just the right way. Phronsie was playing in the corner of Mrs. Whitney's little boudoir, engaged in sending out invitations for an elaborate tea party to be given by one of the dolls, when Polly rushed in with consternation in her tones and dismay written all over her face. "What is it, dear?" asked Mrs. Whitney, looking up from her embroidery. "Why," said Polly, "how could I? I don't see, but I've forgotten to write to Mamsie today. It's Wednesday, you know, and there's Monsieur coming." And poor Polly looked out in despair to see the lively little music teacher advancing towards the house at an alarming rate of speed. "That is because you were helping Van so long last evening over his lessons," said Mrs. Whitney. "I am so sorry." "Oh, no," cried Polly honestly. "I had plenty of time, but I forgot 'twas Mamsie's day. What will she do?" "You will have to let it go now till the afternoon, dear. There's no other way. It can go in the early morning mail." "Oh, dear," sighed Polly, "I suppose I must." And she went down to meet Monsieur with a very distressed little heart. Phronsie laid down the note of invitation she was scribbling and stopped to think, and a moment or two after, at a summons from a caller, Mrs. Whitney left the room. "I know I ought to," said Phronsie to herself and the dolls. "Yes, I know I had. Mamsie'll feel, oh, so bad when she don't get Polly's letter. And I know the way, I do truly." She got up and went to the window, where she thought a minute, and then, coming back, she took up her little stubby pencil, and bending over a small bit of paper, she commenced to trace with laborious efforts and much hard breathing some very queer hieroglyphics that to her seemed to be admirable, as at last she held them up with great satisfaction. "Goodbye," she said then, getting up and bowing to the dolls who sat among the interrupted invitations. "I won't be gone but a little bit of 1 minute." She went out determinedly and shut the door. Nobody saw the little figure going down the carriage drive, so of course nobody could stop her. When Phronsie got to the gateway, she looked up and down the street carefully, either way. "Yes," she said at last, "it was down here, I'm very sure. I went with Grandpa," and immediately turned down the wrong way, and went on, grasping carefully her small, and by this time rather soiled bit of paper. At last she reached the business streets, and although she didn't come to the post office, she comforted herself by the thought, "It must be coming soon. I guess it's round this corner." She kept turning corner after corner until at last a little anxious feeling began to tug at her heart. She began to think, "I wish I could see Polly." And now she had all she could do to get out of the way of the crowds of people who were pouring up and down the thoroughfare. Everybody jostled her against her and gave her a push. "Oh dear," thought Phronsie, "there's such a many big people." And then there was no time for anything else but to stumble in and out, to keep from being crushed completely beneath their feet. At last an old huckster woman, in passing along, knocked off her bonnet with the big end of her basket, which flew around and struck Phronsie's head. Not stopping to look into the piteous brown eyes, she strode on without a word. How does nobody notice her and stop for just a moment? Phronsie turned in perfect despair to go down a street that looked as if there might be room enough for her in it. Thoroughly frightened, she plunged over the crossing to reach it. "Look out!" cried a ringing voice. "Stop!" "The little girl will be killed," said others with bated breath, as a powerful pair of horses, whose driver could not pull them up in time, dashed along just in front of her. With one cry, Phronsie sprang between their feet and reached the opposite curbstone in safety. The plunge brought her up against a knot of gentlemen who were standing talking on the corner. "What's this?" asked one, whose back being next to the street, hadn't seen the commotion, as the small object dashed into their midst and fell up against them. "Then did you see that narrow escape?" asked the second, whose face had paled in witnessing it. "This little girl was nearly killed a moment ago. Careless driving enough." And he put out his hand to catch the child. "Bless me," cried a third, whirling around suddenly. "Bless me, you don't say so, why—" With a small cry, but gladsome and distinct in its utterance, Phronsie gave one look. "Oh, Grandpa!" was all she could say. "Oh, where—" Mr. King couldn't possibly have uttered another word, for when his breath gave out entirely as he caught the small figure. "I went to the post office," said the child, clinging to him in delight, her tangled hair waving over the little white face, into which a faint pink color was quickly coming back. "Only it wouldn't come, and I walked and walked. Where is it, Grandpa?" And Phronsie gazed up anxiously into the old gentleman's face. "She went to the post office," turning around on the others fiercely as if they had contradicted him. "Why, my child, what were you going to do?" "Have a good nap, tonight." "Mamsie's letter," said Phronsie, holding up for inspection the precious bit, which by this time was decidedly forlorn. "Polly couldn't write, and Mamsie'd feel so bad not to get one. She would really," said the child, shaking her head very soberly, "for Polly said so." "And you've been— Oh, I can't think of it," said Mr. King, tenderly taking her up on his shoulder. "Well, we must get home now, or I don't know what Polly'll do." And without stopping to say another word to his friends, he hailed a passing carriage, and putting Phronsie in, he commanded the driver to get them as quickly as possible to their destination. In a few moments they were home. Mr. King pushed into the house with his burden. "Don't anybody know?" he burst out, puffing up the stairs and scolding furiously at every step. "Enough to take better care of this child than to have such goings-on?" "What is the matter, father?" asked Mrs. Whitney, coming up the stairs after him. "What has happened out of the way?" "Out of the way!" roared the old gentleman irascibly. "Well, if you want Phronsie racing off to the post office by herself and nearly getting killed, poor child. Yes, Marian, I say nearly killed," he continued. "What do you mean?" gasped Mrs. Whitney. "Why, where have you been?" asked the old gentleman, who wouldn't let Phronsie get down out of his arms under any circumstances. So there she lay, poking her head like a little bird, and trying to say she wasn't in the least hurt. "Where's everybody been not to know she'd gone?" he exclaimed. "Where's Polly and Jasper and all of them?" "Polly's taking her music lessons," said Mrs. Whitney. "Oh, Phronsie, darling!" and she bent over the child in her father's arms and nearly smothered her with kisses. "'Twas a naughty horse," said Phronsie, sitting up straight and looking at her, "or I should have found the post office. And I lost off my bonnet, too," she added, for the first time realizing her loss, putting her hand to her head. "A bad old woman knocked it off with a basket, and now Mamsie won't get her letter." And she waved the bit, which she still grasped firmly between her thumb and finger, sadly towards Mrs. Whitney. "Oh dear," groaned that lady, "how could we talk before her? But who would have thought it, darling?" And she took the little girl from her father's arms, who at last let her go. "Don't think of your mamma's letter. We'll tell her how it was." And she sat down in the first chair that she could reach, while Phronsie put her tumbled little head down on the kind shoulder and gave a weary little sigh. "It was so long," she said, "and my shoes hurt." And she thrust out the dusty little boots that spoke pathetically of the long and unaccustomed tramp. "Poor little lamb," said Mr. King, getting down to unbutton them. "What a shame," he mumbled, pulling off half of the buttons in his frantic endeavors to get them off quickly. But Phronsie never heard the last of his objurgations, for in a minute she was fast asleep. The tangled hair fell off from the tired little face, the breathing came peaceful and regular, and with her little hand fast clasped in Mrs. Whitney's, she slept on and on. Polly came flying upstairs 2 or 3 at a time, and humming a scrap of her last piece that she had just conquered. "Phronsie," she called with a merry little laugh, "where—" "Hush!" said Mr. King warningly. And then, just because he couldn't explain there without waking Phronsie up, he took hold of Polly's 2 shoulders and marched her into the next room, where he carefully closed the door and told her the whole thing, using his own discretion about the very narrow escape she had passed through. He told enough, however, for Polly to see what had been so near them, as she stood there so quietly, alternately paling and flushing as he proceeded, till at last, when he finished, Mr. King was frightened almost to death at the sight of her face. "Oh, goodness me, Polly," he said, striding up to her, and then fumbling around under the table to find a glass of water. "You're not going to faint, are you? Phronsie's all well now. She isn't hurt in the least, I assure you. I assure you. Where is a glass of water? Marian ought to see that there's some here. That stupid Jane." In an utter bewilderment, he was fussing here and there, knocking down so many things in general, that the noise soon brought Polly to with a little gasp. "Oh, don't mind me, dear Mr. King. I'm all well." "So you are," said the old gentleman, setting up a toilet bottle that he had knocked over. "So you are. I didn't think you'd go and tumble over, Polly. I really didn't." And he beamed admiringly down at her. And then Polly crept away to Mrs. Whitney's side, where she threw herself down on the floor to watch the little sleeping figure. Her hand was gathered up into the kind one that held Phronsie's, and there they watched and waited. "Oh, dear," said Phronsie suddenly, turning over with a little sigh and bobbing up her head to look at Polly. "I'm so hungry. I haven't had anything to eat in so long. Polly," she gazed at her with a very injured countenance. "So you must be," said Mrs. Whitney, kissing the flushed little face. "Polly must ring the bell for Jane to bring this little bird some crumbs." "Can I have a great many?" asked Phronsie, lifting her eyes with the dewy look of sleep still lingering in them. "As many as 2 birdies?" "Yes, dear," said Mrs. Whitney, laughing. "I think as many as 3 little birdies could eat, Phronsie." "Oh," said Phronsie, and leaned back satisfied, while Polly gave the order, which was presently followed by Jane with a well-filled tray. "Now," said Jappy, when he heard the account of the adventure, "I say that letter ought to go to your mother, Polly." "Oh," said Polly, "it would scare Mamsie most to death, Jappy." "Don't tell her the whole," said Jasper quickly. "I didn't mean that, about the horses and all that, but only enough to let her see how Phronsie tried to get it to her." "And I'm going to write to your brother, Joel," said Van. "To your brother, Joel," said Van, drawing up to the library table. "I'll scare him, Polly. I guess he won't tell your mother." "Your crow tracks will scare him enough about anything else," said Percy pleasantly, who really could write very nicely, while Polly broke out in an agony. "Oh, no, Van, you mustn't. You mustn't." "If Van does," said Jasper decidedly, "it'll be the last time he'll write to the Brown house, I can tell him. And besides, he'll go to Coventry." This had the desired effect. "That's all right," said Polly. So a space on the table was cleared, and the children gathered around it, when there were great scratching of pens and clearing of ideas, which presently resulted in a respectable budget of letters, into which Phronsie's was lovingly tucked in the center, and then they all filed out to put it into the letter box in the hall, for Thomas to mail with the rest in the morning. I'm wondering how where exactly do these books take place? Let me see. Hola, Ian. Welcome in. ¿Cómo estás? Where does 5 little chapters take place? I knew it. As soon as they said Coventry, I knew it had to have been Connecticut. Oh, the author is native to Connecticut. Where did the author live? Let's see. Where did... what's this? Her name was Harriet Lothrop, but her pen name was Margaret Sidney. She was born. Oh, she was in New Haven. More than half the night. We know little about her until the late 1880s when her five little peppers, how they grew up. Wow. Wait a minute. It looked like she bought Nathaniel Hawthorne's home because it says they bought Hawthorne's home. Blah, blah. Isn't it? Oh, yay, Guardian. Alguna vez has intentado leer un libro en español? When do I intend to read a book in Spanish? Um, quiero leer, hold on, what's the name of the book? Quiero leer El Frijolito Saltón. But I feel like I want to get a copy of Jane Eyre in Spanish. I wonder, wait, could I? Is there, let's see. I also want to get it in Japanese and Chinese because I think it would be kind of cool. See, Spanish edition. Oh, that's a pretty cover. I think I'm gonna get that. Wait, why is the paperback more? Oh, you know, I don't like the cover of the paperback. It doesn't make sense. It's a woman sitting in a forest with a spider web on above her. It looks like it's like Little Miss Muffet. But the hardcover one is beautiful. There's also one on here in Japanese. I could buy that. Oh, that's a cute cover. Is it the full book? No, it's booked. It's two books. I was gonna say it's too long for one book. Jane Eyre. Chinese. They do have a Chinese edition. I can get it for $3 on Kindle. That's funny. That's great. I'm totally gonna do that. So yeah, so Harriet Lothrop was born in New Haven. They bought Hawthorne's home. Nathaniel Hawthorne, yeah, it has to be because it's the Wayside in Concord. Wait, maybe not. Interesting. Okay, so the house that they bought, it's called the Wayside, and it apparently had many authors that lived there. So Louisa May Alcott and her family owned it from 1845 to 1852, and they called it the Hillside. And she used it to write Little Women. Hawthorne lived there from 1852 until 1869. And then in 1883, Margaret Sidney and her husband and daughter lived there. They were the last family to live in the Wayside Concord because in 1965 it became part of the Minuteman National Historical Park. Wow. Talk about a house with history. 3 separate famous authors lived there. And all of their works are still popular today. Wild. So she was born in Connecticut. The book takes place in Connecticut. She lived in Massachusetts and Coventry. There's not a Coventry, Mass. Is there? No, Coventry, Connecticut. Okay, so that is wild, right? So they were threatening to send Van back to Coventry, or Coventry, however you want to pronounce it. Interesting. Okay. Let's do... Ooh, this next chapter is so long. Thank you for the hydrate. A fanfic about me? I would read that 100%. That would be wild. Okay. Here's the thing. So, if I read the next chapter, then I have to finish the book because it doesn't make sense to put it off another day. Actually, no, I could... No. Yeah. No. Hold on. Next stream would be so short, though. 70, 320, 50. I'm trying to do math and it's very poor. Okay. I've read 50 pages. The next chapter is 20 pages. Thank you for the stand up and stretch. I think we're gonna stop that part of the stream today. But I think what we'll do is I'll read some of the book that I got, the Atlas of Dark Destinations. I'll read 1 or 2 of those. So the book is really cool. Matsu, I don't know if you heard about the book. If you came in after I talked about it or whatnot. Crusader, you might have been... Wait, did I mention it? I don't know. You may have. I think I did. So the book is like 352 pages, but it's really cool because it's like... It reminds me of Atlas Obscura, which I have. I have Atlas Obscura, Gastra Obscura. There's a couple other ones in the series I need to read now. But this one, it's got like really cool... It's got pictures. It's got different locations. So... Pick a country, and I'll see if there's one in here. First, no, pick a continent first. Pick a continent. So I have a new redeem because I decided it was time for a new one. And basically one person, no, three people each stream can choose to redeem an entry from the the Atlas of Dark Places. So please choose a continent, someone. I dropped some marshmallow. I'll wait patiently. I'll wait with Apple. Do 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 do. Hi, Silent. Silent, did you change the spelling of your name? Thank you for the stand up and stretch and the hydrate. Oh, welcome in. It's been a while. And the posture check. South America? Okay. All right, somebody give me a country in South America. About you working while you were being bothered by someone. I think you did, because it was Slyant before. By the person who's always trying to steal the book. That would be funny. I would get progressively angrier. Brazil? Okay. Let's see, is there... Gotta go to that page. Some of them are named by country and some of them are not. Chile, there's a lot in Chile. There's Argentina, Patagonia. Yes, hello, frog right outside my door. There's nothing in here from Brazil. Yeah, I did. I was going slant. Okay. Let's try Venezuela. I don't think there's one from Venezuela either. Okay, there's no Brazil and there's no Venezuela. Give me another country. Oh, I'm choosing an entry from the Atlas of Dark Destinations. Panama? To read an entry. Come on, somebody's. No Panama. Yeah, we're going South America. Oh, hold on, let me see. Um, Tengo un libro llamado Atlas of Dark Destinations. Colombia? Good Lord, no. All the countries in South America, and there's only a couple. Should I just run my finger to. It does. It's just not the countries y'all are listing. Oh, wait. Argentina. Yes. Ian, yes. Argentina is there. I didn't see that. Okay, let's go to Argentina. Um, um, so remember, these are dark things. These are not pleasant things. It has an overseas territory. That is true, Ian. That is true. It says here, what's this? Okay. ESMA. It's the Escuela de Mecánica de la Armada. It's in northern Buenos Aires. It's a detention and torture center. It does mention some countries around the world. So it has a 3 out of 5 star rating for accessibility and things like that. And it has a dark rating of 7 out of 10. So it says in the book, this former Navy school in the north of Buenos Aires was one of the principal clandestine detention, torture, and execution centers during Argentina's Dirty War between 1976 and 1983. An estimated 5,000 political prisoners passed through this particular center. Most of them disappeared. During the 1978 Football World Cup, the inmates would have been able to hear the cheers from the nearby River Plate Stadium. Today, ESMA is the key memorial site, featuring a museum exhibition with historical documents and victims' testimonies, and guided tours are offered. To the southeast of ESMA is the Parque de la Memoria, a large landscaped area with sculptures full of symbolism and with regard to the Dirty War. Some of the other former clandestine detention and torture centers, mostly in ex-garages, have become memorials too, such as Garage Olimpo and Vire Ceballos. Finally, it is also worth going to Plaza de Mayo, where the mothers and grandmothers of the disappeared have marched in silent protest since the years of the dictatorship. Other protests take place there too, including those by veterans of the Falklands and Malvinas War. Someone give another continent. Give me another continent. Reading speedrun. It's just little bits and pieces. Ooh, there's an article in here on Jonestown, Asia. Okay, let's go with Asia. Somebody pick a country in Asia. And this includes Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia, India, and Indochina, Maritime Southeast Asia, East Asia. Includes all of those. About dark tourism. Oh, I see on, I'm sorry, YouTube, I didn't see that. I see Europe now. My apologies for that. So we're going to go with Europe. We'll go with Europe and then Asia. What's a country in Europe that you can think of? Country in Europe and a country in Asia. Go. And Europe is broken down into Northern Europe, Western and Southwestern, Central, Southern and Southeastern, and then Eastern. It's true. Es la verdad. France? Okay, we'll go with France. Let's see if there's anything in France. There's a butt ton in Germany. Italy? Okay, Azato. I'm going. Hi, Turtle King. Good night. Thank you for coming in and thank you for the follow. Azato over in YouTube says Italy, so we're going to go with that. Okay, so 184 is Italy. Okay, so Southern and Southeastern Europe. Italy from, yeah, I see it. Ooh. Oh, there's some cool stuff in here. Okay, let's do this one. This one is a man-made disaster. It's the Vajont Dam near Longarone, northern Italy. Man-made and natural disaster. It has a 3 out of 5 star rating and for accessibility and all of that, and a 6 out of 10 on the dark rating. It is, the picture is, that is a massive dam. That is huge. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. France is interesting too, yeah. Let's see. This is, I'm going to put it up on screen. This is Vajont Dam, or Vajont, however it's pronounced in Italy. I have terrible pronunciation. YouTube is delayed a little bit, sorry. So that's this place. It says the Vajont Dam was a hydroelectric power generation project, the main part of which was a tall reinforced concrete dam. When it was completed in 1959, it was the tallest such structure in the world at 262 meters or 860 feet. As such, it was a remarkable engineering feat. However, the mountains up to the side of the reservoir that was formed by the dam was unstable. Smaller landslides had been warning sides, but they were not heeded. This is why today the disaster that soon unfolded is regarded as partly man-made. It could have been prevented, but wasn't. On the night of October 9th, 1963, the side of Mount Toch collapsed into the artificial lake, displacing millions of tons of water. The enormous wall of water overtopped the dam's crest and surged down the valley, washing away everything in its path, including villages and the small town of Langaron. The disaster claimed the lives of some 2,000 people. The dam itself, remarkably, survived almost intact, and so still stands today without a purpose other than to serve as a grim reminder of the tragedy of 1963. The partly filled-in reservoir and the power generation station were given up after the disaster. The views down the rear of the dam and into the steep rocky gorge behind it are truly spectacular. In addition, there is a memorial chapel and various plaques, and further up the valley in the village of Erto is a visitor center with a small exhibition about the dam and the disaster of 1963. So now there's a metal walkway on top so you can visit it, but it's fully caged in so you can't like jump. But my God, I can't even imagine that whole thing just leaking down. As it mentioned, it's because the intelligence. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I want to look more into that, Ian. Okay, the next one, we said Asia. What country in Asia? You know what's funny? They've categorized Russia as Eastern Europe and not Asia. The problem is that it's a story that's told, but there's no proof. Ooh, that's really interesting. Asian country, please. Por favor. Japan? Oh, that's boring, but okay. A lot of the places listed I've been to. Let's go to Yasukuni Shrine. Not many people know. I don't think a lot of people outside of Japan or peace studies groups know about that. 320. So I went to this place. Let's see what the ranking is. So this has a 4-star rating. Japan. This one is in central Tokyo. It has to do with World War II, imperialism, war crimes, revisionism. It has a 4 out of 5-star rating for accessibility and all that, and a 5 out of 10 for the dark rating. So I went here and it's really interesting. There's the Yasukuni Shrine and the Yushukan. So it's like it's a shrine and it's also a museum that you can go to, and it is very controversial. So the most important dark site in Tokyo is the controversial Yushukan War Museum. It's controversial for its portrayal of Imperial Japan's campaigns in China and Korea, which is rather glorifying and fails to adequately cover the topic of Japanese war crimes, such as the Nanjing Massacre. The one-sidedness of this evident in the display of a steam engine from the Thailand-Burma Railway, aka the Death Railway, without mention of the forced labor by POWs. The kamikaze missions in the Pacific War are given a similarly glorifying treatment, and I can attest to that. They have in one room that you can walk through, they have like a kamikaze plane hanging from the ceiling. Despite the rather revisionist narrative, this is nonetheless a must-see place to get a feeling for Japanese militarism. The Yasukuni Shrine outside is where the Japanese, including politicians, worship their war dead, whether they are heroes or war criminals. All this has repeatedly led to protests by China and Korea. So the thing with the Yasukuni Shrine is it's the dead from the war. All it's, as if I'm remembering correctly, it's all those who died in World War II, not just the war criminals, but the problem is that the ones who were clearly war criminals are also venerated there, because of the religion with Shintoism, which it being, all those who have passed have become like gods or so. So yeah, it's a really interesting place. The museum is fascinating. Um, it is controversial. I went with a peace studies class, and the year that I went, which year did I go? It was the second year I went. It was in 2009, because we didn't go to Tokyo in the first trip I was on. Did we? No. First trip was Kyoto, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki, and the second trip was Tokyo, Hiroshima, Kanazawa, and Kyoto. Yeah. Um, the shrine is beautiful. The museum was fascinating. Um, Hiroshima, yeah. Hiroshima is a beautiful city. Like 100%. If somebody said, here's this much money, you have to go live in Hiroshima, I wouldn't even hesitate. I'd be like, thanks, bye. It's there. The Peace Park is amazing. Tibbs. Page 20. Okay. What? Yes. It's been rebuilt. It's beautiful. Let's see. It's been all built around it. So there's over 1 million people that live there today. Here's a Mazda's out of Hiroshima. Here's a picture of what the A-bomb dome looks like today. So this is the city now. There's no radiation. The radiation, faded out. Well, yes and no. A lot of the city was destroyed. However, they rebuilt. So it's a very busy city now. Over 1 million people live there. What's interesting is, so when I was in college, I'll get to your page in a moment, Tibbs. When I was in college, my Japanese professor is from Hiroshima, and her mom was actually, I think she said 14, when the bomb was dropped. And her family's house, obviously with everything like being wooden, was on fire, and I can't remember if it collapsed or not, but she jumped it. There's no radiation today, no. She jumped into the river and floated downstream to stay cool from the heat of the fires that were ravaging the city. And then when the tide went out and she was able to climb out, if you see in the picture, you can see the steps of the banks. When the water came low enough that she was able to climb out. Oh no, it's inhabited, yeah. Fukushima is not right now. Fukushima has very few people living there because of the nuclear disaster in Fukushima, so it's a little different. Yeah, those are totally different. So she was able to climb out of the river and then walk back up to her family's home, and her family, all of them were still alive. But she did, and Nagasaki is as well. I've been there. It's a bustling city. It's back to it's completely livable. There's nothing, no radiation or anything like that. Beautiful city too. There are a lot of Portuguese influence as well. They have a delicious cake there called Castella cake, and I believe it's influenced by the Portuguese. Oh my God, it's so delicious. I was just craving it the other day. I messaged a friend who went in 2007 when we went to Japan. He was on the trip with me, and I was like, I'm craving champon, manju, and castella cake. And he was like, oh my God, same. No, Chernobyl is actually a nuclear reactor, and it's still melting down. People can visit, but they can't like stay permanently because there's still active radiation. So that is uninhabited. Chernobyl you can't go to. Yeah. That's one, I mean, I don't even know. I don't think you ever could. It would be, I think they said like hundreds or thousands of years before that'll be where, how, let's see, how long until, um, oh, this is fun. Chernobyl will not be habitable for at least 20,000 years, unless the new Victoria that, yeah, unless that does its thing. But as of last year, studies have shown that, so it happened in 1986, it will not be habitable for humans for around 20,000 years. Oh, in terms of devastation today, in ongoing devastation, absolutely. But Hiroshima, it was the first time an atomic bomb was used, and there was no really knowing how bad the radiation sickness was or would be because they had no standard for measurement. And yeah, um yeah. Yeah. Okay, Tibbs, you chose chapter page 20. Let's go to the book, and then this will be the last one. The book smells so good. Oh, it's fresh ink. Page 20. What the? Oh my God, the picture. It's about the Cold War. And the left is urban art on the most famous symbol of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall. And it's just, who the hell is it? It's two dudes kissing. Let me see if I can find it. This. Who is that? Fraternal kiss. Thank you for the posture check and the hydrate. It. I'm gonna have you. Oh, I stand up and stretch. Okay. I'm gonna let you guys. It's called Fraternal Kiss, also known as My God, Help Me to Survive This Deadly Love. Just Google that. Oh yeah. Depicts an embrace between Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev and East German President Erich Honecker. Okay, I'll do two more. Okay, I'll do Tibbs and then 69. So this one says, after two of the deadliest war... This one doesn't have a rating. It just gives information. After two of the deadliest wars in history, World War I and World War II, the world entered the atomic age from 1945. The two big power blocs, the USA and NATO in the West, and the USSR and the Warsaw Pact in the East, accumulated huge arsenals of nuclear weapons, directed at each other enough to destroy the entire world several times over, hence the term overkill. The strategy of deterrence was called MAD, short for Mutually Assured Destruction. Luckily, it never came to nuclear Armageddon. This Cold War never turned hot. However, there were times when the world came dangerously close to World War III and thus potential total annihilation. There were several standoffs in the earlier phases of the Cold War, including the wake of the construction of the Berlin Wall. It is usually agreed that the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 was one of the most critical phases, when the Soviet Union was preparing to deploy medium-range nuclear missiles on the territory of its Caribbean communist ally Cuba, within the reach of the United States. Fortunately, the crisis was resolved diplomatically. On other occasions, there were false alarms in the electronic early warning systems. It was individuals in the military on either side who, on a hunch, did not follow procedures to trigger an all-out retaliatory strike. The world owes these mostly unsung heroes a lot, which is true. There was one, I believe, in Russia that they were getting an alert that an attack was coming in from the United States, and the guy was like, I don't think this is true. And he refused to send the missiles. And thank God, because it was just literally their system was failing, reacting poorly. The Cold War came to an end during 1989 to 1991 with the fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the communist regimes all over the Eastern Bloc, and eventually the dissolution of the Soviet Union itself. Americans may think they won the Cold War, although it is probably more accurate to say the USSR lost it by simply giving up, mostly for financial reasons. The cost of the cleanup operations after the 1986 Chernobyl disaster played a role in this too, according to USSR's final leader, Mikhail Gorbachev. While the original Cold War ended peacefully, there is talk these days of a kind of new Cold War emerging, as Russia reasserts its position on the international stage and also militarily, and NATO has at times been challenged, while at the same time new nuclear threats have developed in India, Pakistan, and North Korea. Given the size of the arsenals the major atomic powers still have, a nuclear end to human civilization is still a possibility. Well, let's say no. Let's go with nuclear disarmament. Okay, 69. And this is the last one. Oh, this is interesting. This is in South Georgia. Wait, really? This is not our Georgia. This book was written published in 2021. 2021. So it's a few years old. Yeah, sometimes real stories are scarier. So this one is in South Georgia. It's in the South Atlantic. It's extreme landscape, ghost town, and a famous grave. So it's 1 out of 5 stars, so it's not accessible. It's very difficult to get to, and it has a 6 out of 10 on the dark rating. There's pictures of the rusty shipwreck of the sealing vessel Petrel at the old whaling station in Grytviken, and then it has Shackleton's grave. Because South Georgia had played a key role in his previous expeditions, it was chosen to be his final resting place. So in this one, this sub-Antarctic island, together with the neighboring South Sandwich Islands, forms another remote British overseas territory. Unlike the UK's other South Atlantic outposts, there is no permanent population. In the past, there were several large whaling stations here. It is one of these that Ernest Shackleton finally managed to reach on his epic escape and rescue journey after the disastrous failure of the Endurance expedition to Antarctica of 1914 to 17. His grave is at the former Norwegian whaling station Grytviken, now a ghost town. The only visitors he and the island ever get are from cruise ships, which regularly make landings here as part of their exclusive sub-Antarctic journeys. Good night, Ian. Interesting. And that's that book. So I really like this. We're going to have to do more of these. It is the Redeem for that reason. It does. Okay, so I have a friend who went on an it wasn't a cruise. She was doing research for a book she wrote, and she went down to, I guess it was Antarctica, and she went swimming. She went swimming. A very bold move. I don't know if I could. I mean, I probably see, I don't know, because the water is so deep and that terrifies me. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I swam in our Antarctica. And by swimming, it was mostly she hurled herself off the boat and then she went back up, and then they pulled her out of the water. And she said it was absolutely so frigid beyond anything. I mean, knowing that you're tied, they like tie a rope to you so that you can't like just, whatever, I probably would. I'd be like, okay, as soon as I submerge, haul my ass out. Just because thinking of what's below me, like I could stand the cold for like, a couple seconds, but not knowing what's beneath me, that would drive me nuts. Okay, let's see. Who is streaming? Who do we have today? Why is my face all... let's see. Let's bring this over. Let's see if there's anyone else doing a reading stream at the moment. A lot of people are obviously doing the new Elden Ring. Harp is doing reading. Neff is doing writing and reading. Silky is doing whatever his chatting is about. Falcor is doing... Let's go visit Falcor. Okay, let's just go to Falcor. If I get to Japan, Hiroshima's on the list. Oh, yeah. No, Hiroshima's absolutely gorgeous. I would live there. It's very easy to navigate, easy to get around. The festival there they have in the summer is really fun. I ate baked potato with chopsticks. It was delicious. It's just really nice. Just really, really nice. The people there are super nice too. Okay, let's go to Valcor. Everybody, thank you for coming in today. Next stream will be on... Next stream will be Saturday night at 10. We will continue reading Voyages Around my room. Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. I will see you then. Let's get ready to raid into Falcor. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.